Hello, everyone. Welcome to Program 3, Episode 3 of the Mechanics of Mediumship. This is a special series exploring this book that brings so much content about the art and science of spiritual communication, or better known as mediumship. We are so delighted, we here at Solitude Center for Spiritual Living, to welcome all of you who are here today to the third episode in this, amazingly and enlightening series. Throughout our journey together with Luiz Lima, who is the presenter, we will delve into the fascinating world of mediumship, which is for all of us to really be grounded. It's an ancient and often misunderstood practice that continues to captivate so many across the globe. So, Louise is offering this series with the opportunity for us to explore with him through his words the inner workings of mediumship, what it is, how does it function, and quite frankly, the profound role it plays in bridging the physical and spiritual worlds. We're honored to have you here, Luis. And Luis Lima is a respected speaker and expert in spiritism and mediumship. He is following the foundation set in the first episode, where he examined the core principles of mediumship, and he turns again to guide us through a deeper, more immersive exploration of this powerful spiritual practice. Whether you're new, curious, or really have been studying and have been drawn to the subject for a long time, today's program will offer you valuable insights and, if I say so, Louise, meaningful perspective to enrich your understanding. So let us continue the journey as Louise, not we, Louise unravels the mystery of the book, The Mechanics of Mediumship, with us. And just for you, if you have not seen our previous episodes, or if you have not met Luiz Lima, our guest speakers, please know that he was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He came to the US in 1990, where he at that juncture discovered spiritism. Since then, he has been an active lecturer on the subject, offering talks in both language that he's so expert in speaking, Portuguese and English. And he's also a dedicated member of the Kardec Spiritist Renovation Spiritist Center in Coconut Creek, Florida. His background is in engineering. He has a professional career in computer network industry. Like he always makes me feel so small whenever we're together, say in a visiting conference anywhere in the world, and his ability to just really understand the underbelly of what goes on in a conference. What I mean is using the internet and computers, whatever it is, for us to be together, even when we're apart and using audiovisual equipment. But anyways, Louise brings this thoughtful, analytical approach to spiritual topics, and I find him quite compelling, quite relatable, and perfectly suited to guide us through the complexities of mediumship in general and of this book, one of the hardest books within the series written by the spiritual author Andre Luiz. So he's here, and I just want to say, welcome, Luiz. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to go to backstage, but I appreciate your program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. I like what you said, the fascinating world of mediumship. It is fascinating indeed. And also, like you said, the book is very complicated, very difficult. So this is our third program. On the first program, what we did is we spoke about, like you said, the core of mediumship. On the second program, we focused more on the medium, mental affinity and all of that. On this program, we're going to talk about the physical effects, physical phenomena in mediumship, which is in itself a very challenging thing to speak with, or to speak about, because we don't have all the right words, all the right elements in place to be able to fully understand. We are getting better by, every day, but it's still a challenge for a lot of people to understand it. So here I am. Let's try to get this going. What you see here are some images of physical phenomena. You see these emanations from different parts of the body, of these mediums. Here are a few more photos for us to follow. So these white clouds, I would say, these emanations, these are generated by the medium because they are mediums of physical effects. And we see two more here. This white emanation that you see here that forms something, it could be a person, it could be an object, it could be a lot of things. But this white emanation is called ectoplasm. It would make no sense for us to continue from here without having a full, at least to the more basic level that we need for this program about ectoplasm. The book that we are studying, The Mechanics of Mediumship, it's part of a series called Life in the Spirit World by spirit author Andre Luiz. These are all the books, 13 of them. On this book that we are studying, there is not a lot of references or not a lot of basic information on ectoplasm, because that was done in previous books, especially these two here, Evolution in Two Worlds and In the Realms of Mediumship. So because these studies were done prior in other books, on the book Mechanics of Mediumship, he just uses the information that was previously taught, discussed. For us to continue properly, I think we need to revisit those things. We need to go back and do a little, like a crash course on ectoplasm, so everyone is on the same page and things make sense. Otherwise, it's going to be very complicated. So here's a crash course on ectoplasm. Study of ectoplasm, or those emanations that we saw in the images, were taken very seriously by this French physiologist, Charles Richet. Richet, in 1902, 1903, he devotes all his time to this thing. In parallel, nothing to do with him, a doctor, a scientist called Albert Notzing in Germany, he was studying cells. He was not studying those emanations. He was studying cells. And he gets to a point where he suspects that the cells generate some sort of white cloud or some sort of something that is produced by the cell, each cell, and sticks around. It doesn't go away, sticks around the cell, but it's not really part of the cell. So at the end, to make the long story short, they were looking at the same thing. So Notzing was studying ectoplasm at the cell level. Charles Richet was studying ectoplasm as a formation consequence of us having 70 trillion cells, each one of them generating ectoplasm. Ectoplasm is even complicated to define in mere words in our language because of the limitations. But in general, to get going, we could say that it's a term that defines, is used to define and describe the exteriorized plasma from a medium. The word plasma itself it could be also challenging for certain people. So this plasma, some people like to say or to use the word substance. Some other people use the word fluid. Some other people use the words or the expression spiritual energy. The word, it becomes not really important here. The important thing is it is those emanations that we see coming out of the medium. That is the ectoplasm. Again, Ectoplasm goes back to the cell level. Why is that there? What's the purpose of ectoplasm? And that was a big question from the 1902-1903 study by Charles Richet. And now we know a lot more. Of course, we have technology that allows to, reveal a lot more that we didn't know in the past. So a few things about what is this for. Ectoplasm, that substance, that cloud, is used by discarnate spirits to produce physical phenomena. So it's the substance that allows discarnate spirit to interact with the material realm. That's what the ectoplasm allows for. We incarnate spirits don't really use ectoplasm to do this because we are already at the physical level on the material plane. So this is used by discarnate spirits. And this ectoplasm, we're going to see this in details. I'm just listing here as an objective for the program today. It is closely associated with a medium's thoughts. And why is that? Because we saw last time there's a mental affinity between the medium and the communicating spirits. So, and that is based on thoughts. They have to have the same thoughts. That's why thought becomes an important base layer for all of this. Now, under the permission of the medium, because the medium, he might not say, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to connect to my communicating spirit today. It's free will. So under the permission of the medium, ectoplasm can be made available for discarnate spirits. Not necessarily, depends on the medium, but it could be made available. And finally, I'm listing here that this ectoplasm coming out of the medium's body will, or can, even better, can be combined with fluids from the discarnate spirits and the fluids of the environmental, the environment where this is happening to produce physical phenomena, which we are going to explain how it works in more detail. So here it is. That's what ectoplasm is doing there, per se. How is that formed? So we spoke about cell levels, right? That's formed at the cell level. Yes, ectoplasm is generated from each cell in the physical body. And that's not only for mediums. Everyone generates ectoplasm at the cell level. And if that's the case, it depends directly on the cell metabolism, because anything that is generated at the cell level depends on the cell metabolism. This ectoplasm, once it is produced, okay, the combination of all our 70 trillion cells generating this thing, remember I said it kind of sticks around it and doesn't do anything. It's not, the cell doesn't use for anything per se, because it will sit between the dense matter and the paraspiritual matter. It is the element that binds both together. We are spirit, perispirit, and we are also a physical body, but we are not two entities, we are one. So there's got to be an element of connection there. That is what ectoplasm is doing. Okay? And finally, this is controlled by the soul. The soul, we're going to see that, how it happens. Our soul, our thoughts will help produce the ectoplasm, and it will depend on the body to filter what's been formed. It sounds challenging, it sounds complicated. That's why we are going to explain all of that. At least we're going to try. So it's cell level. So we need to look at one cell, and then we multiply the effect by 70 trillion. You look at a cell, very simply, very superficial information. Cell can be considered in three parts: membrane outside, nucleus in the very core, and cytoplasm, everything else. The cytoplasm contains, you see here on the drawing, several different They are called organelles because they are organs, just like we have organs inside our bodies, organs that will do digestion, breathing, all of that is in the cell. So the cell is almost like an active full body, except that it doesn't have, it is controlled by the spirit. However, these are the three things that compose a cell for the level that we need today. We're not going to study biology at its full length. Okay, so the information is just to reveal what we need to understand physical effects in mediumship. Cell metabolism starts when a cell picks up or collects ingredients that are floating around, just like us, right? We get food, put into our mouth, we pick up oxygen through our nose, and something happens inside. That's metabolism. Same at the cell level. So the nutrients and the oxygen will be brought into the cell through the membrane, and they will be delivered to one of a very specific one of these organelles, which is called the mitochondrium, and mitochondria is the plural, several of them. So this mitochondria will pick up nutrients and oxygen and will transform this into energy. The cells have more than one mitochondria. The cells, the organs in the body who have more mitochondria per cell are the liver and the lung, because these are the two organs in the body where metabolism is more intense. So they end up having thousands of mitochondria per cell, which is different, for example, from a cell on our skin, on our eyes, okay? So these mitochondria will process the nutrients and the oxygen that was brought in into the cell. And they will generate, that's the byproduct, it will generate CO2, it will generate ATP, which is the for muscles. That's our energy that's going to be used for muscles for us to be able to move and do our activities. And it will also produce ectoplasm. That's what the German doctor, Nutzing, was studying. So we have these three things that are generated by the mitochondria once the metabolism takes place. And then spirit, Andre Luiz says, not so fast, not so fast. There is something else that is brought into the cell, brought into the mitochondria. It will be part of the metabolism. And that's the mental state. Wow, that's interesting. What does it mean? It means this. Oxygen and glucose make their way into the cell. Mitochondria receives it. Before processing, you will have to go upstairs, second level, and what's the mental state up there? Are you happy? Are you angry? What are you feeling today? You're in revenge mode, you're in fraternity mode. That is one of the elements that will be used to produce ectoplasm. So our ectoplasm, generated once again by each one of our cells, contains traces of our mental state. So if my mental state is, let's just say I'm very angry today, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, right? So I'm very angry today. So my cells are going to be generating ectoplasm, which is compatible with anger. Because that's what the mitochondria is there for, to process according to my mental state, my state of mind. So the ectoplasm carries the signature of all of that. This is what the same author, spirit author Andre Luiz, tells us in one of the previous books. I think it's an important phrase. That's why I brought it to you. Through the mitochondria, the mind transmits to the body all of its happy or unhappy states, harmonizing or disturbing the cycle of cause and effect. All states, all the way from unhappiness to happiness. That includes anger, intolerance, fraternity, love, revenge, all of those things, envy. So our ectoplasm carries the signature, of our mental state. And now one thing is very interesting, which is if I'm angry at somebody for whatever reason, who is paying for that? Me, my 70 trillion cells, not the person, not him, not her, me. I am the only one suffering for that because I'm stamping on each one of my cells through the ectoplasm my mental state. So I am somatizing my mental state, not the person who I'm angry at or envy or whatever it is. It's only me. I am the one suffering from all of this. Again, this is for every single person, not only mediums. Now, for mediums, because they have sensitivity, because they have this ability to capture things more easily than others, this is a much more intense phenomenon, much more intense. Mediums, especially physical effects mediums, they generate a lot more ectoplasm than the average person, even than other types of mediums. They generate a lot of ectoplasm. And if their thoughts, their state of mind, their mental state is not really good, if they're focusing on, even on for a certain period of time, if they are focusing on negative energies, it's going to be very difficult, a lot more than it is for those who are not physical effects medium. They feel it, with intensity. And of course, nobody likes that. So we spoke about cell metabolism. So besides the mental state, there's three more things that will impact the formation of ectoplasm. And these are the three ones here that you see: nutrition, water intake, and breathing. Well, let's quickly bring information on each one of them. So about nutrition, remember I said the liver is one of the two organs that carries where the cells have more mitochondria than everybody else in the body. Liver and lung. What affects metabolism on the liver, or when it takes place at the liver? There are several different factors. I'm listing 6 here, which I believe are the most important ones. First is genetics, age, and hormones. We can't really change that. It will, we have our DNA, we all age, and as we age, levels of hormone will change. That's part of nature. We can't really change that. However, other aspects that will influence formation of ectoplasm in the liver, we can do something about it. So anything that we eat that generates putrefaction and fermentation is going to make our ectoplasm, it's going to interfere. We're going to show what it does later. It will interfere in the formation of ectoplasm. Here's another thing: food toxins. Food toxins here, we need to understand what it means. It's not something that you eat and you don't feel well, and, you have stomach problems and intestine problems. That's not what it is. Food toxins are long range. For example, eating, let's say, products with pesticides in high quantities for a very prolonged time, let's say 10 years, 20 years, it will possibly turn into being a factor in affecting the ectoplasm. So with time, our ectoplasm is going to be affected by it. Also, intestinal toxins. It's different from food toxins because food toxins, obviously, it's something that we bring into the digestive systems through our mouth. Intestinal toxins is any toxin that will make its way in the intestinal. It could be something that we put on our skin, it could be injection, it could be anything else. That's not something that we put in the mouth. They will impact the ectoplasm. Negative emotions. Well, we just saw, right? Negative emotions will impact the ectoplasm. That's exactly what spirit author André Luiz was telling us. The mind transmits to the body all of its states, happy, unhappy, and everything else. So negative emotions will stamp their presence on our ectoplasm, on our cells. And finally, I put here industrialized products, mostly because uh, these products that have chemicals, a lot of chemicals, which could, at the long range, again, it's not that I took a can of something today. No, we're talking about 20 years, 30 years, eating this every day. So we need to watch. And again, that's for everyone. We all need to watch that. For the medium, for the physical effects medium, the impact is a lot more evident because of their condition of being a medium. So we spoke about nutrition. A quick word about water intake. Well, first of all, water is important in general. It will help, on the distribution of nutrients throughout the body. We know that we are always, our doctors are, it's out there, just drink water. And yes, we should drink water. We all need it. Our body needs it. Now, one interesting thing is when you go into a spiritual treatment, for example, on a spiritist center, on a spiritualist center, and they tell you, okay, come for treatment on this day, this hour, and bring a bottle of water. Why do we need to do this? Spiritism teaches us that the medicine that you need is going to be put in the box or the bottle. How is that? Think about this. During the spiritual treatment, most likely you're gonna be lying down. Usually we turn off the lights or they're very low. And the bottle is gonna be, let's say, just by your side, on the table by your side. And it's yours. You brought it in physically. You walked into the center. So the spirits that will be coordinating the spiritual treatment, they know that. They know that. So while we are laying down, being treated, the spirits will collect our ectoplasm. Yeah, they will pick up, collect our ectoplasm and infuse the ectoplasm into our bottle. After this, they will bring from the spirit world the medicine that we need. And why is it done that way? Because it is personalized. They put my ectoplasm into my bottle because that ectoplasm carries my signature, my spiritual signature. And that's how it's done. We're going to talk about this at another day when we go to healing. That's another program. Now, the quality of the water matters. Why? Because the water, knowingly, is going to be manipulated. So we don't want water that is full of different elements, full of different things. We want water that is great quality. Usually, we tell people not to take tap water, but to take crystal water, spring water. Okay, so water matters. If it matters to you, it matters even more for the mediums. Breathing. Well, we breathe oxygen that's out there. How is that oxygen formed? How does it becomes available to us? through a phenomena that we know from school, photosynthesis. And what this is the plants receive sunlight. You know, sunlight brings nutrients, stuff from outside the planet, from other dimensions. Okay, so the sunlight comes in, the the plants also pick up water from the soil, and they pick up CO2 from the air. It all goes in. If you think of like a black box, they all go into this black box called plant, and it generates two things as a result. One is glucose, the other is oxygen. So the oxygen that we breathe in, that we are going to breathe in later on, contains things that come from the sun, contains nutrients. That's interesting, right? Breathing is important. The better you breathe, the more you inhale these things. It is very common when you start doing, in the first days, if you ever decide to do meditation, before you even get to meditation, you know, and sync your mind with something else, the instructors will not even start if you don't learn, quotes please, if you don't learn how to breathe. They want you to breathe at a certain pace, at a certain, using a certain method, to make sure you're getting the best out of it, that you're inhaling oxygen, you know, to its fullness per se, for lack of a better word. So nutrition, water intake, and breathing, they matter in the formation of ectoplasm. And don't forget, the fourth thing is the mental state. Ectoplasm could be generated in more or less quantity. You can generate, our cells can generate, you know, a lot of quantity or not so much. Who generates a lot of quantity? Physical effects mediums generate quantity of ectoplasm much more than anyone else. Now, the quality of the ectoplasm also matters. You can generate better quality ectoplasm or not so good, worse quality ectoplasm. So that brings us four possibilities. A lot of quantity, a lot of quality, you know, not much quantity, a lot of quantity. We got four quadrants here. If you generate ectoplasm of good quality, that is a good thing. And why? Remember, what is ectoplasm used for? By discarnate spirits to do something upon the material world. If you generate quality, high quality ectoplasm, this will be picked up by good spirits. If you generate low quality ectoplasm, good spirits can't do much with it. It's like it's contaminated. They can't do much. So if you generate low quality ectoplasm, high order spirits are not going to be able to do anything with that, but low order spirits will. That's a whole different story, but just be aware. What generates low quality ectoplasm? We spoke about them. Remember the influence of ectoplasm on generating at the liver, ectoplasm at the liver. So all those industrial, you know, canned products over a long range, they will, you know, make our ectoplasm be worse quality. Worse quality ectoplasm sticks around the cell and cannot be used by high-end spirits. And they will generate a lot of times symptoms because it's something that is around the cells of our organs and our body. And the body doesn't know what to do with that, doesn't know how to get rid of it. High order spirits do not collect that. So you get into an excess of ectoplasm, which is not good. It's like contaminated, for lack of a better word. And it could generate symptoms. We usually define or divide these symptoms in four types that you see here on the screen. General symptoms, in, you know, something in general. Auditory symptoms, very particular to our ears. Respiratory symptoms and digestive symptoms. So What is that exactly? Well, let me say, I feel, for example, sinus. I think I have a sinus infection all the time throughout the years. And then you do all sorts of possible exams and all of that, and nothing is ever detected. Exams at the physical level, doctors and nurses and so. And then the doctor will say, you don't have anything. And I say, but I do. It's awful. Every day or every 3 days, I got this thing. And why is that? It could be excess of ectoplasm, which is sitting in the nose area. How come? You see how important this is now, especially for mediums. It's a karmic. It could be a karmic condition, action and reaction. So let's say, for example, that in a past life, uh, I killed somebody with, let's say I shot somebody and killed them on the heart, shot on the heart. Okay, that person discarnates and I'm still here. That person or that discarnate spirit now didn't really like what I did and he wants to come for revenge. Now he's discarnate. He has to be able to find me here somehow. How is that going to happen? Not necessarily it will, but one day I'm going to discarnate as well. And it's going to be a lot easier for this spirit to find me now in the discarnate world. And then let's just say that I incarnate again before him or her, before the spirit. So now that spirit knows where I am. And because I killed them with a shot in the heart, I may have, and that's action and reaction, that's natural law. I may have a potential condition in my heart that will create trouble depending on my behavior. If I do everything by the book and follow God's law and something, I'm not going to have anything happening. But if I stay on the same pace that I was, the same level that I was, and most likely that's the case for most of us, I'm going to start, potentially I can develop heart problems. So here I am. I'm living. I have a potential condition in my heart that I don't know, not necessarily. And this spirit is now, waiting for an opportunity to do some sort of harm because he wants revenge. He didn't like what I did. Because I most likely would be at the same moral and intellectual level than when I left last incarnation, my ectoplasm is not going to be that great because I'm not a very high order superior spirit. So my ectoplasm might not be so high quality. So this spirit will be able to manipulate my ectoplasm. He's not going to take over my body, but the ectoplasm is available for spirits to handle if they want. He will be able to. So what they could do is, because of this karmic reason, they could dense, they could make my ectoplasm dense by manipulating it and placing this cloud of ectoplasm over my heart. And I'm going to start having symptoms. Then I go to the doctor and say, doctor, I feel this, I feel pain, I feel this sharp pain at times, it comes randomly. So you do all sorts of exam, EKG and everything else comes right, comes, without any trouble from the medical point of view. And I keep having that and that and that and that. It could be karmic reasons. Of course, all that we're saying here, symptoms and all potential symptoms, have to go through the regular medical channels first, because it could be really a physical condition that has nothing to do with this. But in certain cases, people have 30 years of migraine, 30 years of heart, punching, being punched. That's the feeling. It could be karmic reasons. So you see how good quality ectoplasm would not ever allow for something like this, because good quality ectoplasm is not handled by lower order spirits. And I put this picture here so we can close our crash course on ectoplasm. Sometimes, if you ever did, and most of us spiritists do, we go to spiritist centers, and let's just say that, you're going to go for a lecture on the spiritist center or a study or something, say a lecture. And then we're all happy and all, oh, today's lecture day. And so I go in and I talk to people, and everything is nice and going well. Then we sit down for the speaker to start. When the speaker starts, we start yawning like crazy, like you see here on the picture. And because of our social standards, social patterns, we feel bad doing this because it's something that, in social life we avoid. It's not comfortable doing this in front of people all the time, like, and again. So the speaker speaks for, let's just say, 45 minutes. And I feel like yawning for 45 minutes. And finally, the lecture is over. Speaker finishes, and I don't yawn again. Only during the time that he was speaking, I was sitting down. And let's say it's a speaker that I might like. The subject would be very interesting for me, and I just can't stay. I'm listening, but I just can't avoid yawning. Why is that? Most likely, your ectoplasm is being collected by the good spirits in the center and will be used towards those who need treatment. That's why we say you're sitting down, hearing or listening to a lecture, all of us there are being treated. So what they do is they collect good ectoplasm, form this, I would say, a pot of ectoplasm, and start using those to interfere in the physical realm to help us. So don't feel bad. Another place where ectoplasm becomes available, and you might have the same thing, it's gospel at home. When you do gospel at home, people might get sleepy and this sensation of, it's for the same reason. Of course, we want to concentrate, but understanding why makes it easier for us. And also, this is going to be on another day, passes. The spirits coordinating the passes will use that ectoplasm. We're going to see how, but that's further ahead on another day when we talk about healing mediumship. So, all of this about ectoplasm, so we can say a few things about physical effects. So I put 3 phrases here so we can discuss. Physical effects, they occur when the incarnate personality, this phrase comes from the book. What is the incarnate personality? It's the medium that we usually call physical effects medium. A lot of times they are also called materialization medium. So this physical effects medium has the potential for broad disarticulation of anemic forces. What is anemic forces? Is the force that keeps the sandwich together. Sandwich, yes. A body, ectoplasm, and perispirit. These mediums have the ability to make that sandwich more at ease, if you will. So the soul disengages. That's what they call disarticulation. When the sandwich is, let's just say, when the group of these things are released, the ectoplasm, which is in the middle of the sandwich, becomes more available and will be used by the communicating spirit or spirits that will produce the physical effect. The ectoplasm has to be available, otherwise the discarnate spirits can't do anything. And it becomes available just like that. This spiritual symbiosis, meaning the connection, the good connection between medium and communicating spirit or discarnate spirit, does not depend on intelligence, does not depend on moral does not depend on culture, does not depend on spiritual growth. No, we are talking about a body generating ectoplasm. The type of ectoplasm is going to be good or not for the job, but all of us generate ectoplasm. It does not, to generate ectoplasm, it does not depend on any of these things. So there's a word that we use in spiritism and spiritualism too, which is telekinesis. And that's the psychic ability that allows an individual to influence a physical system without touching. For example, moving an object without touching the object. That's mediumship, that's physical effect. That's mediumship and that's physical effect. And these, that kind of thing, these telekinesis could be very simple things all the way up to the most complicated things. Very simple things are, for example, rappings, little noises that we hear, some noises here and there. And the most complex ones are make ectoplasm visible, like the images and the photos that we showed in the very beginning. So it's a range of possibilities for physical effects. However, the simplest ones, like rapping is considered a simple one. It usually is something that the children are involved with. You see, young people, they might act as mediums for low-order discarnates. Rappings will not take place from very evolved, high-end discarnate spirits. It will come from lower orders discarnate spirits. So these lower order discarnate spirits, if they attune to the children, to young children, young people, they can produce phenomena such as rappings, which are those sounds, signals, dislocation of objects, peculiar voices, because these are things without a more, I would say, elaborated purpose. So young people, usually they don't know their physical effects medium. They will know one day if they study, but that's where their ectoplasm is used for. Now, how does the physical phenomena, the most complicated one, the visible ectoplasm, those photos that we saw in the beginning of the program, this is what happens. We have an incarnate medium of physical effects. It has to be a medium of physical effects. It cannot be any person. So here's the incarnate. And we have one or more discarnate spirits. It could be a group of discarnate spirits. It could be just one. So here they are. And they got past what we spoke last program, which is the affinity. So now they have this bond that was explained on the previous program. So now they have this bond that connects them mentally, the mental fields. When the incarnate spirit, which is now connected to discarnate spirit, decides, and it's free will, we spoke about this in the beginning, it's free will, decides to proceed, it will allow the ectoplasm to be released. We just explained how, the sandwich. But that ectoplasm is invisible, just like the ones we produce in ourselves. Nobody sees them. It's invisible. At this point, a guide, a spirit guide, it doesn't have to be the life's spiritual guide of the medium. It's someone, it's a spirit that will guide the process. So it will be available for the medium. And the purpose for this guide is to help the connection to stay up, to sustain the connection, sending to the medium good thoughts, good things, so the medium can sustain the connection and not deviate his thought. So the guide will, that's the purpose of this guide. Then the discarnate spirit will pick up, will collect part of the ectoplasm that is available from the medium's body. It brings it in. And it will also bring in the fluids of the environment. Let's say this thing is happening inside a spiritual center. So the fluids of this inside the spiritual center will also be collected. So now the discarnate spirit collected the ectoplasm from the medium's body that was available, collected fluids from the environment, this case spiritual center, and we'll mix them up and we'll work on them to produce visible ectoplasm. The form of the visible ectoplasm is a choice of the discarnate spirit. It is not a choice of the medium. In this case, the discarnate spirit decided to, make it visible in the form of a head. It could be in the form of a box, in the form of anything that you want to think of. Now it's visible. So it doesn't happen like this on a snap of fingers. A lot of things have to happen. A lot of things have to be in place for this to be able to happen. And then now it becomes visible. And those are the photos that we saw in the beginning. There are several challenges to make this happen. Number one, very, very important, the medium's concentration. You see, the medium was able to connect in the first place to the discarnate spirit or spirits, if it's a group, because of the mental field. They are in line. Now, if the medium loses its concentration for 1 nanosecond and it goes out for a different kind of mentality, energy, something not so good, it could drop the connection. That's why the spirit guide is there trying to help him sustain that concentration. So for lengthy connections, and that is needed to form something, is not immediate. It takes time, several minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, depends. So the connection has to be sustained. That's what the guide is there for. Another challenge, the medium has to produce high quality ectoplasm. Once again, 4 things: nutrition, water, breathing, and state of mind. Those generate the ectoplasm of the medium. So the medium has to be a person who has a good nutrition pattern, who drinks a lot of water, who breathes, deep and well. Otherwise, the ectoplasm is not going to be good enough. Also, in the environment, there are people usually watching that happen. There are people around. These people, the participants or those watching, not necessarily they are mediums, let alone physical effects medium, which is rare. So they go in there. It could be because they're driven by curiosity, they were invited for some reason, it doesn't matter. They have to maintain good thoughts so they do not disharmonize the environment, the mental field of the environment. So that's why it is very, 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 very difficult, and not even recommended, to have external participants present at things like this because of the law of mental field. One person that is not on the same page as everybody else in the audience, for example, if we had people from outside, if one of the participants is not on the same page, you will, I'm not going to say destroy, but you will interfere in the mental field of the environment, and the fluids of the environment are picked up, remember, by the discarnate spirit to produce the effect. So you could challenge the whole process. And also, the place where this is happening, in the example that we just put out here, it was a spiritual center. The environment has to be clean physically, clean like you clean your house, and you sweep the floor and all of those, you vacuum. It has to be clean, so make it easier or less contaminated, and make it easier for discarnate spirits to be able to pick up that those fluids from the environment. So, my friends, that's physical effects mediumship. Hopefully, I was able to give you the basics of it, the crash course on ectoplasm. Hopefully, it helped you too. Ectoplasm is a long, long, long study. We could study for hours and hours, but hopefully, that was enough for you to understand what we were trying to get. Thank you very much. And here's Marcia.
Hi, it's so good. You kept me just glued to all the words, the content, etc. And I'm sure we have many of you who are listening, or maybe in the future, as this will be published and kept on our channel, you'll be able to really understand, and who knows, read the book, right, Luis?
Yeah,
It's a book that most individuals who are working with mediumship or studying, they read, but this is a common complaint. It's so hard, right? It's so hard. So I love the discussion specifically on ectoplasm today, Louise, and I hope you have enjoyed too. But with that, Louise, I just want to say thank you, and ask you to maybe have your final words to everyone before we say goodbye.
yeah, sure. Let's do a quick prayer here. Let's first of all thank our guide and master, Jesus, guide for the humanity, for the opportunity that we are having to not only be here talking about uh, this subject, but for all the opportunities that we are given every single day to be better people, to help others, to improve our being, to be able to relate to other people and help them grow with us. Thanks, Jesus, for being such a part in our lives, for blessing us with your presence every day in our mental fields. We ask you, Jesus, to also bless those physical effects mediums. They are they devote their energy, as we saw, to a great cause, so that they are always protected during the work and outside of their lives. Thanks once again, Jesus, for this opportunity. So be it.
So be it. Bye, everyone. See you next time.